So is he crazy, or?
Continue. He believes he's mentally ill. But he may be the most powerful mutant we have ever encountered.
Can we take a break?
Look at me, I know what I am.
What's that?
What's going on, everybody? It's Warren, and what you just saw is a tiny little teaser and perhaps a glimpse into the future of what Marvel Studios has in store for us as far as Magneto in the MCU. That's right, today we have some pretty epic reports stating that Marvel Studios is currently in the process of casting their Magneto for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, we know that Mutants and the X-Men are coming to the Marvel Cinematic Universe pretty soon, so this doesn't come as a huge surprise, but it is super exciting nonetheless. And what are the X-Men and Mutants without one of their main villains and also sometimes one of their main allies, the one and only Magneto? And it's possible that we could be seeing him as early on as the Wandavision series. I'll break down everything you need to know about this new report in this video, but first, if you're new, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest MCU news, and so you can enter this week's giveaway for a chance to win a Zombie Hulk Funko Pop. I'm picking a winner on Friday. So, to put these two reports right now in simplistic terms, it's stated that Dan Stevens is in talks right now with Marvel Studios to play a villain in the MCU. It is rumored that this villain is Magneto. The first report comes from an exclusive from Small Screen, and they say that Dan Stevens is in talks to join the MCU, possibly as a villain. Now, for those of you who may not know, Dan Stevens was the star of Marvel and Fox's show Legion, and he actually already played a mutant. In fact, he played one of the strongest mutants there was. He played David Haller, the son of Professor Xavier and Gabrielle Haller. So playing a mutant wouldn't be exactly new to Dan Stevens, as he's already played a mutant on screen, and he's really tight with Marvel as it is. Small Screen says that they've been told by their sources close to Marvel that Dan Stevens is in talk to join the MCU, but it won't be to play David Haller, aka Legion. But they have actually quoted two sources on their site, and one says Dan Stevens and Marvel are currently deep in discussions. It's for a role in the MCU, the movies, and it could be a villain. So right here, this source close to them tells them that it's not going to be for a Disney Plus project, it's going to be for a movie. Then they quote another source that says, Stevens is in talks with Marvel. Kevin Feige is super excited to bring him into the Marvel family. I'm hearing it's for a villain role, not Legion. So a couple of different sources have told them that Dan Stevens is being considered for a villain in the MCU, but a report from Geekosity.com specifies which villain they have in mind. In the report, Mikey Sutton states, Stevens is being looked at for the new Magneto, this time fitting within the MCU, rebooted for what is also being planned to be a new cast for the X-Men. But Magneto is just one character that Stevens is being considered for, and I'll explain this in just a second, but the report goes on to say, Small Screen reported that Stevens was being sought for a villain, and when Mikey asked his sources which villain, they said that it was Magneto, but that Feige sometimes auditions actors for multiple roles. So according to Geekosity.com, the role that he's being considered for right now primarily is Magneto within the MCU for the new X-Men. Now, when the report talks about him being considered for other roles as well, Marvel does this a lot. They keep a lot of actors on hold, on retainer, for certain roles that they think would be fitting for them within the MCU. Jake Gyllenhaal is the perfect example. Kevin Feige admitted that they must have auditioned Jake Gyllenhaal for several different roles within the MCU until they finally found that perfect role of Mysterio for him. Kevin Feige also recently admitted that they do the same thing for Keanu Reeves. They want Keanu in the MCU, and Kevin Feige said that for each movie that they're doing or each project, they talk to Keanu Reeves about a certain role. They just haven't found that perfect role for him yet. But when and if they ever do find that perfect role, then he'll get that role and he will be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And this is apparently what is going on for Dan Stevens right now. Now we'll talk about if Dan Stevens is a good fit for the role of Magneto in the MCU in just a bit. But real quick, let's talk about the importance of this report. The fact that Dan Stevens is being considered for the role of Magneto means that Magneto is not too far away from making his MCU debut. This is huge news, but now the question is, when exactly is Magneto going to enter the MCU? Well, he does have one major connection to the first Marvel Phase 4 project that is happening in January, and that is the Wandavision series, and his connection is to the one and only Wanda. Now, we know that the Wandavision series is going to be a TV adaptation of a bunch of different comics, but primarily the House of M comic. In the House of M storyline, Wanda creates a new reality, one where mutants kind of have their perfect world. Spider-Man is a celebrity married to Gwen Stacy, Captain Marvel is a very beloved superhero, Doctor Strange is a psychologist, and Magneto is the ruler of this world. And in this comic storyline, not just in the new reality that Wanda creates, but in the entire storyline's universe, Magneto is actually the father of the Scarlet Witch and her brother Quicksilver. And it was this way for a very long time, but Marvel would eventually say that this wasn't indeed true, and Magneto wasn't in fact their father. But the importance here is that WandaVision is going to take from the comic House of M, and in the House of M comic story, Magneto is a very prominent character. And it's widely believed that the WandaVision series is going to actually start addressing mutants. Now, right now, there are just a ton of theories out there as it stands. Whether it's Wanda creating a reality where mutants are real and then that reality becomes real in itself, or they simply introduce them, we don't really know what's going to happen. But Marvel did give us a slight hint. In their new book, The Wakanda Files, that is MCU canon, meaning everything that is said in the book actually happens in the MCU, we just don't see it on screen. They talk about Wanda and Pietro's genetics. According to this book, they were chosen to be test subjects by Strucker himself because they had, quote, the appropriate genetic markers that make them conducive for human trial volunteers. So in this book that is MCU canon, they specifically mention Wanda's genetics and that she has a certain genetic marker. There are also notes from Dr. List, and he says that Wanda and Pietro were a proven success where others failed. Now, he thought they succeeded because of their hatred for Tony Stark, and that's what they led us to believe in the movie. But what if it was something else? What if it was something in their genes that the Mind Stone awakened? And of course, you all know what I'm talking about, the X gene. So it seems kind of apparent that they're going to explore this at least somewhat in the WandaVision series, which means that Magneto could very well indeed be on his way to the MCU pretty soon. Now, some of you have been asking me on Twitter, would Dan Stevens actually make a good Magneto? And I think the answer to this is absolutely. Legion had a very cult following. It was actually quite an amazing show that came from Fox. It ran for 3 seasons and 27 episodes, and Dan Stevens' performance was very exceptional, and you can see that again in the clip in the beginning of this video. He has great range as an actor, he's able to act very smoothly and then at the same time act very aggressively and angry. He can look very suave, but he can also look like a madman. All sides that Magneto has, and he's at an age where he can commit to playing this character for the next 10 to 15 years. Because we know Magneto isn't just going to be in one film and that's it, he's done. Magneto is going to exist within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, along with other X-Men like Professor Xavier and Wolverine for a very long time. So overall, I do think that Dan Stevens would make a very good Magneto. And if he doesn't get cast as Magneto, I would like to see him play another role within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But let me know what you think about this. Do you think he'd be a good fit? And be sure to let me know what you think about the WandaVision series talking about mutants. How do you think they'll be brought into the MCU? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest MCU news. Give the video a like if you enjoyed it. And for live updates, you can always follow me on Instagram and Twitter. As always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.